wait for people to join. This is so exciting. Oh, perfect. Hello, Brittany. Awesome. Welcome, welcome. We're waiting here for people to join. I hope you are doing well. I can wave back to you. I hope you enjoyed your dinner. Hello, Rebecca. So happy to see you. It is finally warm here in Minnesota. Hello. Yes, I'm so proud of people making it. The weather here this morning was super gloomy, and then it got sunshiny and bright. I was encouraging people to go outside, and then hello, and then I decided maybe I shouldn't tell them to go outside because I want them inside watching the Instagram happy hour, which while we were waiting for our amazing guest to join us, I have my cocktails of the people who are on here now. Anyone have a cocktail with them? And I'm interested to know, hello Claris Collective, what is in your cocktail of choice? Mine is a lovely margarita. And actually, what drink did I make? I made a margarita. And Erin, I know you were on here as Clitoris Collective. I just got a text message from Francie, if you want to check in with her to make sure she can join, okay? This is a margarita. So I did margarita mix, and I did Hornitos tequila. I would really like to do a like batch margaritas because those are really, really good. We have someone with water. I love it. I'm also have a, this is a protein smoothie thing. We have some wine. Yay, Ellen joined. That's awesome. Ellen, I'm so glad to have you here. What is in my smoothie, my other drink that I made, is frozen broccoli and carrots, and then I did a whole frozen banana. I did a big swatch of peanut butter, and then I did Vital Proteins, beauty water, coconut milk, and water. And so I'm gonna be kind of going between this and my margarita. Perfect. I love that Rebecca is grabbing wine, and I see that Francie has joined. So I am going to go ahead and request for Francie to join us. Let's see. I'm so happy for everyone being so patient. Oh, Francie jumped off. See if we can get her back on here. Let's see. I'm loving all of the faces that I'm seeing. Okay. All right. So as we're waiting for Francie to join us, there we go. We're going to add her right now. We're waiting for her to join. She is, I'm wanting to do the intro with her here. She was the individual who took over my Instagram stories on on Tuesday. It was lovely having her a part of this lovely clitoris collective. So I cannot wait to see what she has to share with us. I might have to, as we're trying to figure this out, potentially hope that that doesn't happen. Oh, so in answer to your question, the vegetables are all blended in my, I just use a KitchenAid blender. So I just throw everything in, blend it all up. I don't juice it or anything. So I'm getting all of the fiber, which I know that I really, really need because I have been, for some reason, avoiding vegetables lately, which is kind of odd. And I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know if anyone else is having issues eating vegetables while in quarantine, but for some reason, I like need my smoothies to get them in. So I'm really excited. I don't know if any of you are joining me this Saturday. I'm going to have the first Well Woman workshop, which will be really, really exciting and cool. It's all about pelvic floor stuff. If you didn't get signed up for this Well Women workshop, please reach out in my direct messages. You can email me at hello@laurameihofer.com. Excuse me, because I wanted to know who I missed and why I missed you so that we can make sure to capture you on future sessions when we go ahead and do more of these amazing workshops. Ooh, this is really, really good. So if anyone sees some new people that have joined, I'm wondering for the individuals drinking wine, are you having red wine or white wine? Because I feel like in Minnesota, like we've had some cold days here, which I tend to like more of my red wines. But then like today it got really, really warm outside. So then I kind of like slide towards those like white wines a little bit more. Okay, so let's see. So Francie notes that she keeps trying to get on, but it keeps kicking her off. So let's see. Let's see. Okay, we went ahead. Go milk yourself. We're waiting for her to join. Hello, Herman and Wallace. I love seeing you on here. Francie, hello.
Oh,
I just want to note one thing. Are you on? Are you hooked up to Wi-Fi? Let's see. We're getting a little bit. Oh, let's see. We're getting a little bit of delay. This is new. Okay, I can see you again.
okay, great.
Are you perfect? Are you on Wi-Fi?
I am.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm seeing you. You're so clear. Hello, Francie.
Hey. Hi.
Hi. I'm so happy to have you joining us here today. You are in your bathroom? How come you're there?
Because I live in a very small apartment and there are 3 other humans in it and they are each in the other spaces.
Oh my gosh, you are a true rock star.
Something like that.
Yes. So I want to take a moment to just introduce you to everyone and give a little bit of background about you. So everyone, this is Francie Webb. She is a doula, lactation expert, and by the end of this month, May 2020, she'll be a certified breastfeeding counselor. Additionally, she is the creator of the Go Milk Yourself method and has a team of people who she oversees that helps women with this method. And finally, she is also the author of the Go Milk Yourself, You Have Power, Express It book, which can be found on her website as well as Amazon. And to top it all off, she is a mother.
That's true. I make babies.
Yes, you make babies and awesome businesses.
Something like that. We try.
Yes.
We try, right? Really, I don't know
yes.
about you, but I really don't make it look easy.
I mean, this front-facing side of me seems always very put together. The back side sometimes looks a little bit more interesting.
Indeed. I feel that.
So now, Francie, where are you located?
I live in New York. I live in Harlem. And this is a very interesting time to be living in New York City.
I have to say my thoughts are with you. I have several friends that are out there, and it's like ground zero, it feels like, for COVID with how much you guys are dealing with.
Yeah. And I'm very, very, very grateful 24/7 that my kids and my husband and I are healthy. And it's just, there's some days that feel challenging when you're stuck in a tiny apartment with your people, and I'm with my people and they are healthy, and I could not be more grateful.
Yes. Yes. So I'm very interested, Francie, to hear about, I have some questions for you, but I'm interested to hear first a little bit more about being a doula. Like how some of the questions that came in was, how do you become a doula?
Great question. Well, you become a doula by either taking a training or going to a birth and doulaing someone through their birth, and then getting shot after that. So my doula, who was my first experience to doula life, who I had for both of my daughters, she attended her sister's birth as a support person and did that for her sister's 2 babies, and then was inspired and decided to take a training later. So some people do support somebody that they love in their like postpartum stages, and then may get trained or may not. And then people like me decide we want to be trained as a doula, and that becomes our first step. So my first doula training was, I think, 3 full days. And then there was like a process that for certification. And then I did a second training a few years later that was a permanent certification for postpartum and birth. And you learn a lot about biology and psychology and philosophy and politics. There's just a lot of there are a lot of ways of learning that interact with birth. And my background is that I'm a middle school teacher. I taught middle school full time for 15 of the last 18 years. And I always say there's a lot that's similar about teaching kids and working as a doula, because what we're out to do is really get what someone is dealing with and really meet them where they are. And so my job is to really hear people and then support them from wherever they are, no matter what's happening, with whatever they need. And I'm doing that in a system that is sometimes challenging for people to feel listened to. And that happens in schools with our students and our children. And it happens as well in the healthcare system in this country.
Right. And I can see now when sharing that you were a middle school teacher, I can see, because I've watched some of your videos and I was going on your amazing website, gomilkyourself.com. And I was so impressed with how you convey the information. And so I think that that's one of the things, especially in your takeover, that I really enjoyed, was how comfortable and confident you were in teaching it. And I mean, I'm not pregnant or anything, but I was like, yeah, I can milk myself. I can hand express.
You know, if you stimulate it enough, you might be able to get something out.
There we go. There we go. So I think that's really cool. Like I said, kind of knowing a healthcare provider or just any provider sort of transition to then sort of what brings them here on this platform is so fascinating to me, because we can come at this at all different angles to support people.
Yeah. And, you know, I think one thing that's very similar about the work, so I've been working with a number of pelvic health professionals for several years now, both for my own body and as referrals for clients. And so I'm a huge, huge fan of pelvic health. I mean, who isn't? But, you know, some of us are louder about it than others. But I think there are a lot of similarities in work, because what our job is to really help humans get in touch with their own bodies and find power and freedom where they were experiencing the opposite. We do that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we help people.
So, and yes, which is huge, that advocacy piece.
Yeah. It's pretty cool work.
So one of the, I mean, yes, I love it. Hence why we do it every day. So, I had a few questions come through for specifically towards your doula background. And some questions were, do you have to have a strong pelvic floor in order to be able to birth a baby well?
That's a good question. No, you do not. Babies are birthed, you know, either vaginally or surgically. And people whose pelvic health runs the gamut birth their babies surgically and vaginally. Pelvic health can be helpful in the birthing process, and it can also be helpful during pregnancy, and it can be helpful postpartum, because often what we see, as you know, is that when there's something awry with someone's pelvic health, they're experiencing some type of pain or dysfunction. And when things are going really well with their pelvic health, they're not. And so I was somebody who probably didn't have the healthiest pelvic floor with either of my two daughters, and ended up having a lot of pain and function in my second pregnancy, and then had a prolapse after my second birth. And my births went very well. I was very lucky, and also had fantastic support. You know, I felt really empowered by my births. But after my second was born, I'm like, I got to deal with this. I'm in pain, and there are things down there that aren't really working. So like, you must have things, you know, things must be perfect down there. Or either by the vaginal birth, you don't, because something comes up. And either way, it's a birth.
Right. Oop, I lost you a little bit.
Allergy.
Can you say that one last thing? You cut off a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah, I know. It's like so great on so many levels, and then on other levels, it's like.
I know, totally. I think that, you know, in general, It's sometimes hard to remember the last thing that you said. Have you ever noticed?
That's okay. That's okay. And you know what? The nice thing is that even if this platform for it doesn't work, we can always do a Zoom meeting.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the bottom line is like we can have better experiences within our own bodies when we feel powerful within our own bodies. And there are lots of reasons that people feel disempowered within their body. Some of them are reasons of things going on internally, and some of them are reasons of things going on externally. And so any ways that we can help people feel more powerful in their bodies mean they're going to have an experience that's more positive no matter what they do with their bodies. Or that when something comes very unexpected or that isn't working, like for me having a prolapse after my second baby was born, I was devastated. I was embarrassed. It basically means that like one of the organs is bulging or like kind of dropping in a way that it shouldn't. And for me, that was my rectum. And I'm like, who wants to talk about that? But I needed help. Something was not quite right. And as soon as I was able to ask for help, I felt totally empowered. And I healed it with the help of several amazing professionals.
I think that's amazing. And again, one of the things that I think is so incredible is I love how you put words around feeling powerful within yourself to be able to create a better experience. And so I am interested now with your current business, do you still do doulaing? I don't know if that's a word, doulaing.
I always say doulaing. Or I say like, could you doula me? If I need somebody to help me work through anything in my life, I'm like, could you doula me right now? Yeah, so my time is often spent like in regular life, and actually even now when we're all staying at home all the time, the majority of my time is spent supporting clients as a doula through postpartum time, through birth, through pregnancy, and often I'm working with somebody from early on in their pregnancy. And so we're together for months. Then it's kind of like on the side, I teach hand expression and support lactation, but I really try to rise to wherever I'm needed the most. And during these last number of weeks, as some of my birth work has been shifting to virtual, I've been doing a lot more lactation support. So you could say I just have a lot of jobs, which a lot of us do. And I am there for my people when they need it, however they need it. And sometimes someone who's one of my people is someone I've been working with for a long time. And sometimes like yesterday, I got an Instagram message from someone in Georgia that was like, can you call me right now? I need help. And that was a person who needed lactation support. And I called them and helped them right away. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. So we had a question come through inspired by you sharing your personal story of your prolapse. And they were wondering if there's a way during labor that you can eliminate that factor or decrease it of having a prolapse issue.
Yeah, well, I know that you can speak to that a lot. And I also can speak to my personal experience, which also gets into something that you say we're going to talk about, which is what inspired me to become a doula. And that was my second birth. So this birth that really, when my daughter was born 5 years ago, I was, totally astonished by what happened during her birth. I expected to have a whole team of people supporting me. And she came into my hands minutes after my water broke, before anyone could arrive to help. And it was shocking and in its own way traumatic, and also hugely empowering. And when I got help later with my pelvic floor and with the prolapse, one of the things that I learned is that sometimes just during your birth, something that can happen that can either exacerbate a prolapse you had that you didn't know about yet, or that can just like make something much harder. And so did I have a rectal prolapse before her birth? Perhaps, but not something that I could notice. But after she was born, I'm like, something is not quite right down there. And so looking back on it, I think that, there are things I couldn't control about my actual birth, the way that it went down, literally went down. But I do feel that if I really think that it would have helped me to have more consistent pelvic floor physical therapy during that pregnancy, because what happened was like I was having I had really bad pubic symphysis dysfunction, which for anyone who doesn't know is just like pretty hellish pain, usually around the pubic bone that can affect you can feel it in your inner thigh, you can feel it in your hip, like it's just really tough. And I saw a pelvic floor physical therapist, and then there was a certain point where I just kind of went on strike and was like, I'm not going anywhere. I hurt too much. And so I really sat on my back for the end of that pregnancy. And I do believe that if I'd continued with the physical therapy towards the end of that pregnancy, I don't know if I could have avoided a prolapse, but I do know that I probably would have been in better shape to either heal quickly from one or not have one that impacted me as much as it did.
Right. I think, yeah, I mean, I think that what I'm trying to convey to people through these platforms is that having that knowledge around your pelvic floor now, before you have kids, after you've had a kid, maybe you're planning on having more kids, maybe you're done having kids, but learning about this area of our body at any point you come to me, come to you, any of these places is going to help you for whatever the next stage is. So for the individual that's asking now, I'm guessing that what they're thinking is, how do I eliminate this during labor? Maybe they're expecting or they will have a kiddo. And so that's where learning as much as we can about our pelvic floor and growing that awareness of the pelvic floor is what's going to be huge. So for me, if I see someone pre-delivery, I work on, can we contract? Can we relax? Can we bear down? For me, I created this Well Woman workshop, which is basically what I do in my first, if I meet with anyone, the first session, you know, you go through this education stuff of this is what your pelvic floor is, these are the motions, blah, blah, blah. And so I put that into a workshop, again, as an avenue to help train people so that we at least are discussing it. You know, it's just, yeah. I feel like everyone skips over the pelvic floor.
Yeah, it's kind of important.
Yeah, it's hugely important. And that's one of the things that I actually really liked about when I was going over your website and listening to your takeover is, like you were saying with your kiddo, they're just kind of like, oh, yep, you know how to breastfeed, bye. And I had a bunch of people reach out saying that was their experience. They just sort of thought like, oh, you've already had a kid.
Yes. You know, I work with, when I'm teaching hand expression and in general lactation work, I work with a lot of people who are having their second baby, third baby, fourth baby, and had a really challenging experience their first time around, and they just want things to be different. And often they'll contact me before their baby comes to just say, listen, here's what happened. It was awful. How can, you know, can you help me get off to a better start this time? And yes, like there are no particular outcomes that I can guarantee in else's body. There are no particular outcomes you can guarantee in someone else's body. But what we can do is be by their side while they're on and provide them with what we know and then troubleshoot together. That's what we do.
Yeah, totally. So I had one individual just say, you should do a pre-baby workshop collaboration. I would join, double thumbs up. So there we go. That's our next business endeavor.
Sounds great. You know, I'll say yes, whatever you do, but then I'll have a lot of questions for you. Always answer.
Yes. Oh, of course, of course, of course, of course. Now, so can you do phone or video consultations in other states? So I know you shared that you're in New York. Are you able to connect with people anywhere? Oh, that's awesome.
I've worked with everywhere from New York to Singapore to California, Tennessee. Yeah, we do a lot of virtual work, and it's really amazing that I think many of us now in our work are discovering how much we can do from afar. Right. And one of the coolest things about virtual work is that we have an opportunity to have the person who's looking to become more powerful in their bodies learn how to do the things or to do. You can talk to somebody about the possibility of restriction, getting milk virtually, and the next thing I know, that to assess this. And so, I mean, I had somebody text me a picture yesterday, and she said, I've been doing some research, and I looked up all these pictures, and I think 4 of these 7 pictures are what's going on with my baby. And
yep.
Work independently.
How empowering for you to hear her.
So cool. Yeah, it's the coolest thing. It's the coolest thing. And it's also such a, yeah. I was talking to an educator at one point this week, and we were talking about different philosophies of teaching. And she was saying there's one philosophy that the teacher knows and that the students don't. And that in the philosophy her school uses, and we're all going to be contributed to. And I think that's what we're learning more and more over time is there's not this relationship where I know and the other person doesn't, or I'm right and the other person's wrong. We construct that a lot in our, like, I construct my husband is wrong and myself is right a lot. We were just talking about it about an hour ago, but you know, that's not really what's happening. That's not what's really happening. What's happening is like the person who's in the body is the one who gets to choose. And my goal is to help them choose powerfully, however they want to use their body.
Yep. And I think I cannot tell you how many of my friends who have had children that have had some mouth restriction and they went to the doctor and the doctor discredited the mom. So I think that that's something for both of our audiences to know is that if a provider is discrediting you, go find a new provider, because you really are knowledgeable about your baby, about your own health, and you need to find someone to listen to you.
Right. My journey towards becoming a lactation educator began when I was told I had low milk supply by a pediatrician who I later learned had no idea what she was talking about. Like once I studied lactation, I'm like, how could this woman have just looked at me and said, well, I don't think there's much to, I said to her, can I just pump for my baby? Do I need to supplement with this formula you're recommending? And she's like, well, I just can't see that you'd be able to get much out. And she just didn't have the knowledge to make that statement. And I was absolutely devastated. And if it wasn't for 2 other providers who I found, one a lactation consultant and one a different pediatrician, I would have just done what she said and felt like a failure and felt disempowered about it.
Right.
And then, like, you know, one of my mentors in the birth world, who's now a midwife, she always says, sometimes we go to the taco place and we ask for pizza. And sometimes we go to the pizza place and we ask for tacos. And really, if we want tacos, we got to go to the taco place.
I love that.
You know, because it's like, there are many things that we go along with in our journeys to take care of our bodies. And for those of us who do, you know, in having babies, we're just like, oh, well, I need to do what this person says because they're an expert in X, Y, or Z. But what really may be happening is that what that person is saying isn't a match for what we're looking for. And, you know, if I ordered the burger and they brought me the wings, well, I like burgers and wings, but, you know, yes. I tell them that's not what I ordered.
Right. Exactly.
But we often don't do that with providers. We just are like, well, they said I have to do this, or they said this is what's wrong. And, you know, people are told all the time that their bodies don't work. And I believe people.
Yeah. And I like how you said, like, a phrase you used as being a health advisor. So, and I also like how earlier you had talked about Sorry, my dog's barking in the background. How early you talked about that as a doula, you support women before pregnancy as well as after pregnancy. So I love that continuum of care that oftentimes women don't get.
No, really, truly. Yeah, and I work with people. So I have worked with a number of people who don't identify as women, who are pregnant and who are birthing.
I'm sorry.
So,
Thank you for highlighting that.
yeah, so this is something that like I've become very conscious of. Like I have one beloved client in particular who just has really opened my eyes to the ways in which I was using women and using female pronouns when they don't apply to birthing and lactating. And it's changed my whole business approach. Like I used to be called the milking mama, and now I call everything go milk yourself, because that applies to anybody who's lactating, no matter how they identify. But I have to tell you, I have a lot of favorites in my work. And one of my favorites is when I get to work with somebody through that whole continuum. Like sometimes people will contact me and say, "Could I hire you as my postpartum doula only? I'm due in this many months." And I usually say I'm not available for that, because I strongly prefer working with people as their birth and then postpartum doula. Of course, when I'm working with people for lactation, so many different experiences with their pregnancies and with their births. But I mean, if I get to, I mean, I have clients sometimes will call me when their kids are a year old and tell me something that they're going through, and we'll troubleshoot something that's happening. And it's like, it's the coolest thing in the world to be able to help people. It's the coolest thing, you know? It's just an opportunity.
I know it's I had an individual reach out to me on Instagram and say, I'm due the end of May. I'd love to work with you after delivery. And I was like, we can work together before delivery. You don't need to work until after. Like, let's get some time together now.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I had a client who was having some pain yesterday, and I've been seeing let's see, she does natal and postpartum knowledge, and I had some things that were coming up in my body, and I was like, this is who I need to do. This is PT with. So I had an injury in my knee that I knew was related to some pelvic.
Of course.
An expert in these issues who's a physical therapist, and she emailed them right now, like literally within an hour. She'd emailed her, and then she has the opportunity like together. Pretty cool.
Yes. So, okay, I have never been pregnant, never been a mom. And so I had a question come in that talks about, like, are there different stages of breast milk throughout? Obviously, I know the colostrum but is there different stages? Like even like 6 weeks post delivery versus a year?
Yeah, it's changing all the time. Milk is changing all the time, and it's changing from the time it starts coming in when someone is pregnant, because colostrum starts coming in during pregnancy. And colostrum is like often yellow, sometimes the texture of honey. It can be very sticky. It's what we think of as milk. There's usually a ratio of the components of breast milk that shift because of the baby's age, because of how the milk is removed. Like fattier milk as a rule is great. And so, for example, one of the things that I shared in the takeover was that hand expressed milk has been shown to have a higher fat content than pumped milk. And that's something that's like a fantastic. But in look at it,
right.
Colostrum, and then we see transition milk really come in. And then we see full milk. Even milk hands during a feeding over a day. If you're sick or your baby's sick.
Wow.
In the milk. Like the baby and the milk are responding to each other. It's fascinating. And I mean, and then there are things that come up, like I was nursing my first daughter, 8 or 9 months old, and to her, and I got clogged ducts, which is like super painful. The milk basically gets stuck. It's not moving the way that it needs to. And it can be, for me, it was really, truly as painful as labor, if not more. Horrible. And I was like, how could I possibly have clogged ducts? Like,
I've heard it's horrible.
Now, yeah. And it turns out that one of the reasons we were probably having clogged ducts, sometimes it's a change in the baby's eating habits. And in this case, also my milk was fattier at that point. So it was more cloggable, if you will. So yeah, milk changes all the time. And you know, there are all kinds of resources that how the components change. But what we also see is that the components are changing just within a feeding or within a day. It's fascinating. Wow. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That substance. Is so amazing. And yeah, I mean, and I think one of the things that I always see with breastfeeding parents or parents who are pumping or whatever is I always think about what's happening at their neck or their shoulders because they're very, you know, and so it's interesting watching you do the massage technique because I'm like, wow, that's a lot more shoulder opening, more movement than this kind of very sedentary forward flex position.
Yeah, and then we're hurting. And then, you know, we wish we could have a massage 24/7. I heard that someone once told me that Barbara Streisand has a full-time massage therapist who like only works for her and she can get a massage every day if she wants. I'm like, I would like that in my life, please. But yeah, I mean, often we are really training our bodies to feed our babies or to pump or to get milk out. And so when I teach hand expression, one of the first thing that we start with is how do I position my body so that this will take the least toll on it, so that this is ergonomically pleasing, if you will, and I'm not like like when I first started expressing, I was clenching my hand a lot and I was hurting my wrist and I was moving my thumb a lot in a way that was painful and in a way that chafed my skin too. And so over time, I learned to do it in a way that kept my joints aligned, my shoulders down, my body relaxed, and like only just enough movement to get the milk out.
And do you ever find that people want to maybe stop breastfeeding their baby or chest feeding their baby, but they want to avoid clogged ducts? So they'll maybe go from, okay, I'm feeding to now I just want to hand express?
Yeah, I worked with one person in particular who exclusively, she actually had a baby who went on a nursing strike. She would have preferred to continue nursing. But sometimes when babies go on nursing strikes, sometimes they'll come back and you can try things for them to come back. And sometimes they're like, nope, I'm all done with that. And that's what happened with her daughter. And she exclusively hand expressed for, I don't even know how many months. It had to have been at least 6 or 8 or 9 months. It was pretty remarkable. She was just very dedicated to it. But there are so many benefits to hand expression. And there are also so many benefits to working with a lactation professional. And the true sign, there are lots of true signs of a really amazing provider, but to be a lactation professional who's really supporting people, you support what it is they want. And sometimes what they want is to initiate feeding, and sometimes what they want is to maintain feeding, and sometimes what they want is to wind down or stop feeding. And so hand expression is a way to relieve the tissue so that things don't get clogged or you don't get mastitis, which can be infectious or not, but that's when like basically you got a very sick breast or chest from milk that's getting stuck. But you know, we can use hand expression to support people no matter which of those things is their goal. And if somebody were, you know, let's say they were pumping a lot and they decided they wanted to wind down from pumping, then adding hand expression, if it's not already part of their practice, can basically get enough milk out to relieve, but can start backing off on the stimulation that's happening. So it's like makes it easier to find that balance. I would like to stop producing milk, and I would like to do it without my body being like, what are you doing to me?
Right. Now, how long did you breastfeed and hand express your kiddos?
You won't believe what I'm about to tell you. My first daughter, I nursed her until she was almost 3, self-weaned when I was pregnant with her sister at about 32 months, which is like a little bit before age 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then my second daughter stopped nursing about 2.5 months ago, right before her 5th birthday. And if you had told me that I would be nursing, and if you had told me I would be nursing a 5-year-old, a pre-K, I mean, she's in pre-K. I felt like I was kind of confessing. I said to one of her teachers, I was like, just so you know, like, she still nurses. And I thought she was going to be like, oh my God, you're crazy. And she was like, oh my God, that's so amazing. She's like, that's so incredible. I just had a totally different, I've known her for many years because she taught my older daughter too. And I just kind of wanted to tell somebody. But the reason that we nursed as long as we did for both kids is that it worked. It was sustainable. And the reason it was because I got support of people who were helping me, and I didn't think things were working with my body at first because I was so stressed about going back to work and pumping and all these things. And then I discovered hand expression, and I found an incredible lactation consultant. And then I started working in lactation, and I learned so much. And then I was like, well, you know, for my work, I kind of need to be lactating. In order to show people how to get milk out with their hands, I need my milk to come out. So by the time my second was 3 years old, she was a lot, and it was kind of driving me crazy. And I was like, I told my mentor, who's an IBCLC International Board Certified Lactation Consultant, I was like, I think I want to wean. And she asked me all these questions, and we like went through like all of the things that were coming up for me. And what I finally realized was that my daughter was doing it so much because it was the only time she ever got alone time with me. Like, I really realized, like, the only time mommy ever sits down and spends time with her is to nurse. So no wonder she sees me. I'm always running around talking to clients, texting with clients, you know, helping her sister, like, get things done around the house. And so I had that revelation, and then I worked with her to do a little bit of weaning, like, how can we back off so that we're not nursing like a newborn when you're 3.5, because I am really not, that's not working for me. And then we got, she would nurse just in the morning and at night. And then over time, she really naturally went to a point where it was just in the morning. And then in the last few months of her nursing life, it was that she would nurse somewhere between, you know, 3 and 5 days just in the morning. And then she told me she was done. So yeah,
wow. I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah, but you know, I'm telling you this, it worked because I had my people. I had a team of people. There's no way, like, I did not nurse those children by myself. There's a whole team right behind me, like, cheering me. And I think that there are a lot of people who wish that they, you know, have regret or have grief around how their lactating journey ended or went. And there's some people who are not lucky. Like, I also have some, in both my births and my breastfeeding journeys, I've had some dumb luck. Like, I'm lucky that worked. And I'm lucky that my body responded to things that I tried. And that's not everybody's story. And so, you know, I recognize the luck aspect. And then what I also see is that one of our most powerful jobs is to just be with people as they share whatever their experience has been. And so when I'm working with someone and they're sharing either a past or present experience about lactation, about birth, about what's happening in their bodies, the most important thing is that I really get what's happening for them. And that I don't project anything on them. I'm not there to tell them what to do. I'm not there to judge. I'm not there to, you know, be right or wrong or right or wrong. but I'm there to really be with them because everyone's journey is completely unique. And so, you know, I have clients who nurse their babies. I have clients who didn't nurse at all. And I have clients who have nursed their babies for several years. And I'm there for them no matter what.
That's awesome. So now I personally, as a entrepreneur, am like so fascinated to find out, how did you transition from doula, discovering hand expression, to employing teachers, and then writing a book?
Yeah, great questions. Well, things happened in a totally different order than that, as they tend to. I mean, it all started when I had my babies and I was pumping and I hated it. I was so anxious about the pump. I was convinced I had low supply because of what this pediatrician had told me and what I was seeing come out of the pump. And the short of it is, over time, I discovered that I could get milk out with my hands at least as well as any electric pump. And so I started just using my hands. So I started hand expressing instead of pumping in October 2012. So that's now like going on 8 years. And then, you know, expressed milk while away from my daughter for a long time, for way too long, actually. I was like stressing about how much I was getting out at work when she was almost 2. And my friend was like, you can stop now. And I just had like, I was addicted, like, no, every 3 hours I go and I express milk. And there was like, it was totally normal. But so I started expressing for myself, and then I started teaching hand expression after that. And I started teaching hand expression to people in my neighborhood, to really, it was mostly just like people in person. I didn't do anything virtual. And then after my second daughter was born, I was so inspired by her birth that I did a doula training, and didn't think I would practice necessarily, but I wanted to be trained as a doula so that I could support people in birthing. And so that happened after she was born in the spring of 2015. And then that fall, I started teaching online workshops. And then my book, Go Milk Yourself, was a long time labor of love. It was almost 2 years that I wrote. And I also trained 2 groups of teachers in teaching hand expression. And so the book came out in 2017, and I became, I mean, you know, I basically, it was like, I learned to hand express. I started sharing it with people pretty informally. Then I had this like very unexpected, unassisted, I didn't even know that was a word. Unassisted birth means like you don't have a medical provider with you, even though I intended to. And then, and then it was like that happened. And so in pretty short order, I trained as a doula, and then started teaching online, and then switched after a year of teaching full time and wishing I could attend births. I was like, I'm going to rearrange my life, and this is what I'm going to do. I told people I'm on sabbatical from teaching middle school. I'm teaching babies, birth, and boobs. And but writing the book, I mean, I've been a writer my whole life. It's what I've really wanted to do. I've always written in a journal. I really would like to be writing memoirs. I really would like to I have a picture book that I keep saying I'm going to publish, kids picture book. I just really love words. And so there will be more coming, but you know, the short of it is that these are all things that I feel really fortunate to be able to do. And I mean, the coolest thing is, you always think if I do this, then I can't do that. And, you know, in the last year and in the last year plus of my life, I've actually taught middle school while being a doula and supporting people in lactation all at the same time, because there were a couple opportunities that came up that allowed that to happen. And the schools and the students and the other teachers and my clients and I all made it work. So it just has become a bit being able to do the things. But I do intend.
That's so incredible.
I really want to be a midwife, and that's not something I have taken an action. Yes. But mark my words, by June 1st, I will have applied to at least one midwifery school. Okay? Okay, I said it here.
Woo! Yeah, we're gonna hold you accountable. No, that's right. That's so awesome that I think, I know for me personally, working at a major medical institution, I used to work at Mayo, and I kind of always thought the only way I can be successful, the only way I can do something is in this capacity. And then since leaving there, I'm like, wow, there is so many more things that are available to do that I want to do. And so I think that that's really, you know, really interesting that you have all of these different hats that you've worn. And so one of the questions that just came through is, what is the difference between being a midwife and a doula?
Such a great question. Yes. So a midwife is a medical professional who is trained in medical skills related to someone who is pregnant, birthing, and recovering from birth. And also midwives are trained in caring for newborns as well, which can be really sweet because in some situations, people can have their midwife continue to care for their newborn while they're getting their early postpartum care instead of going to a separate pediatrician's visit.
Oh,
so
nice.
Pretty great. And so a midwife is the person, like my dad is a doctor and he's in traditional medicine, like Western medicine. He's a general practitioner. And when I accidentally had a baby with no one there, and then we were talking on the phone a few hours later, he's like, well, is the midwife there now? And I said, yeah, she's here. And he's like, well, does she have like medical training? And I really wanted to say like, no, just out here on Craigslist, you know, or something. I wanted to just like make something up.
Yeah.
You know, it's my dad. He's stressed. He's like, is everybody okay? This is so unexpected.
Yeah.
The midwives I've worked with, I've now worked with 3 different midwives over the last several years for both pregnancy and birth and for well woman care. And I love them all. And they, you know, these are people who are brilliant and medically trained, and they can, if something goes, you know, if there's a challenge during the birthing process, they know what to do about that. If there's a, you know, if the baby doesn't cry right away, has a cord wrapped around its neck, or needs a little help breathing when they're first born, they're trained in that. And that's something that doulas are not trained in. What doulas are trained in is emotional and physical and informational support during that time. So I, you know, get to know people and I answer their questions and I send them resources and I make suggestions. Like I offer, like, here's a menu of things you could try right now, but I'm not taking blood pressure. I'm not measuring the size of their belly. I'm not doing an ultrasound. I'm not, you know, diagnosing anything with them or their babies. I'm just there by their side for whatever they need to feel informed and comfortable. And then they also have a medical provider who's supporting them. And that medical provider is a midwife or an obstetrician, and then also potentially a pediatrician. And then sometimes people have other medical professionals that they're working with. But the biggest thing is, like, I'm not trained to catch babies. I have caught a baby.
Right.
I caught both of my own babies I birthed into my hand. But there was a baby I ended up catching a couple months ago because that's just how fast it went.
That's just how it went.
Baby who, like, I spotted my client's partner while he caught the baby. So, like, sometimes it's that way.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Right. So we only have 1 minute remaining, and I want to, first of all, thank you, because it just popped up on my Instagram live. So thank you. And I will assure everyone who is listening that I will have a recording of this, and I will tag Francie in all of her amazingness.
What an honor. So great to be with you. I can't wait for,
thank you so much.
The work that we're going to do now.
Yes, awesome. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, and thank you.
Thank you. Now go milk yourself, Laura.